Well, good morning. Welcome to the Sports Carnival with a very friendly public service announcement. When you take more shots over the weekend than an NBA All-Star game, get prepared to feel a little bit worse than possibly Giannis Antetokounmpo does. I'm Dave Carney, your host. Welcome aboard. I see that Rob Dog from Stoddard is checking in this morning, and Rob Dog is very upset about the WIAA state playoff bracket. Rob Dog, I would love it if you would share that playoff bracket with us here on the program this morning. Matter of fact, if you could, send us that image via YouTube. That would be spectacular. If you're watching me on Facebook group page, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, or LinkedIn, really appreciate you jumping aboard the Sports Carnival this morning. Joe Daguanno, our green and gold insider, is going to be joining the program a bit early this morning. Generally, we've got Joe on at 8:30, but we'll be having Joe join the program just a shade after 8:15. He's going to be doing me some favors here because I'm flying solo once again. We had one of the most amazing holiday parties in the history of holiday parties yesterday. Thank you to my good buddy Matt and his lovely better half Ashley for putting together a just incredible holiday party. Now, I realize what you're saying. It's February 20th. What kind of holiday party is this? Well, of course we fucking celebrate President's Day. What else did you think we were celebrating? In all seriousness, it was a holiday party that was left over still from the Christmas season that we just hadn't had a chance to do yet as a staff, as a collective. And boy, did we have a lot of fun. So for those that were in attendance, I'm not going to tell on you. We don't need to get into the specifics about exactly what it is that we did, but we just had a great time. So, Matt, if you're up and at it this morning, which I believe that you are, thank you so much. Ashley, if you're up and at it this morning, why? Why are you up and at it this morning? We had way too much fun to not necessarily, if you didn't necessarily have to get up, I should say, then you really probably shouldn't have. We've got a couple of interesting poll questions here for you this morning. Well, it's the same poll question, but I've expounded on it just a little bit on the Facebook group page, which, again, thank you so much, continues to grow day by day. The poll question on Twitter and the one on the Facebook group page, like I have mentioned, are largely the same, except for on our Facebook group page, we do have an additional option for you to vote on. The questions this morning are as follows. What was the most exciting thing to watch this weekend? Was it college basketball? Had some big basketball games. Wisconsin lost in a heartbreaker to Rutgers. What about the new XFL? I took a look at that. Not bad. Decently attended. Football was okay. What about the NBA All-Star game? Team Giannis, Team Tatum. That was one of the highest scoring affairs ever. By the way, Jason Tatum sets an NBA All-Star record for points scored in a game with 55. Or what about the movie Cocaine Bear? Because according to box office numbers, Cocaine Bear might have exactly been what Hollywood needed to revitalize major interest in going to the theaters. This is the kind of theatrical release that you really kind of want to be in the theater to see, especially if you're with a couple of buddies. Perhaps you have a beer or something before you go in there to see the movie and really, really enjoy it. So tell me what your thoughts are. What was the most exciting thing to watch this weekend? Cocaine Bear, the NBA All-Star game, the XFL, or college basketball? Now, that is on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. Our Facebook group page has all of those particular choices, plus the Genesis Open. So Tiger Woods, this weekend in the Genesis Open, played pretty good golf. He really did. Tiger played pretty good golf, finished it 1 under par, didn't win the event, of course, but considering where Tiger Woods was coming from, right? Tiger Woods was coming from nearly losing his leg a couple of years ago to actually competitively golfing in a PGA Tour event. That to me is spectacular. It really is spectacular. So tell me what your thoughts were. I know that we do have one Facebook user checking in. Dunk contest and Daytona 500. You know what? That's a miss on my part. And why don't we add that to our Facebook group page? Because I don't watch auto racing, like, at all. There's absolutely nothing that can ever really get me to watch a race. If I was in person, and I've been to a couple of NASCAR races in Vegas, that's a different story. I mean, those things are pretty exciting. I just can't watch it on TV. It's not my bag, but I'll take your word for it. Dunk contest and Daytona 500. That dunk contest with Matt McClune, holy shitballs. That kid can get up in sky, baby. He really can. 4 consecutive 50s. And here's the cool thing. We've been watching these guys take 8 attempts, basically, to make these dunks. This dude got all of them on the first try. Really, really impressive stuff. Matty Ellens, our thankful proprietor of the recovery room and somebody who I've just got so much affection for, throwing a fucking fantastic party last night, just being a great guy. Says to send a shout out to Annie over at the Bluffside. Yep, Annie and Pete at the Bluffside. Luxury limos, great party limo. It was like, it's a party van, a party bus. Wow, was that a lot of fun. Luxury limos, and Tina and Mandy at Cooley Golf Bowl. Indeed. So this holiday party that we had last night was what you would consider epic, okay? Normally I wear sunglasses because the lights are really bright and my eyes dart around like I'm a meth head, which isn't true. But the lights are really bright. This morning I'm wearing sunglasses because my eyes are puffy. I mean, they are really, really puffy. As a matter of fact, if I would have really thought about it, would have gotten a really classic bowl out, like, just a nice ceramic bowl like you would have seen in the old time movies, filled it with the ice in the water and dunked my head right in there. Man, that was good. Now, Thomas from UWL says he's added the dunk contest on our Facebook group page. That's cool. That's like the NBA All-Star game, though, right? Like, we could lump all of that into NBA All-Star if we wanted. We can make subsections. This is the power of the Facebook group page. We can make subsections, and you, too, can add stuff on there. Let's see what Jason Breacher, P1 Breacher, is saying. Yeah, the Greek freak, made a little boo-boo picking his man, LOL, meaning not picking Jason Tatum. But you know what? I don't know if I would have picked Jason Tatum either. I really don't, because Jason Tatum's like my arch rival now, right? So we've got Jason Tatum going on the Boston Celtics. I don't want that fucking guy on my team. Give me somebody else. But speaking of Giannis, guys, let me take a small sip of coffee here. Don Francisco's delicious. Speaking of Giannis, this guy's got a possible issue here with his wrist. So reading a report this morning, Giannis is traveling to New York. So from Salt Lake City, where there are no doctors because they believe in the art of Christian Science out there. So he goes from Utah, the state with no doctors. He goes to New York so that he can get this wrist examined. This is one of the reasons why, and we talked about it Thursday. Friday I was off, and Matt was off as well with me. We had a, quote, staffing shortage. But Thursday night when Giannis and company were playing the Bulls, I didn't expect to see Giannis play. I really didn't. I think we talked about that. ESPN 105.5, I was on with John Papadopoulos on the sports lead Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. And in making that prediction for the game, I really didn't think that Giannis was going to play. I figured they would sit out Giannis. They'd sit out Drew Holiday. Well, not so much. And unfortunately, Giannis takes a tumble and sprains his wrist. So this isn't necessarily great news, not necessarily the worst news ever. But Giannis says, quote, I'm taking it day by day. Try to get healthy. Obviously, I had the incident 3 days ago. I don't think it's smart in any way to play a lot of minutes in the All-Star game. He went on to say, at the end of the day, obviously, you want to participate. You want to run up and down, joke around, have some dunks, create some work. But at the end of the day, I feel like you have to be mature. Hard decision, mature decision. Take a break here, take care of it, and hopefully I can be available for my team when they need me. Yes, hopefully that is the case, because the Bucks are about as hot as any team, if not the hottest team in the NBA right now. 12 consecutive wins. 12 consecutive wins. So listen, this is something to watch out for, guys. And this is the one thing, I mean, really and truly the one thing that we've collectively looked at. And you could see the chagrin on the face of the Bucks, the staff, the coaching staff, the players when Giannis went down. This is the one kind of thing that can really and truly derail a perfect season for Milwaukee. And they've been playing, like I've mentioned, incredible basketball. Now, Jay Crowder's coming back after the All-Star game. Chris Middleton's working himself into decent shape. But we'll see. This is going to be interesting. All right, UWL Thomas said, or asked, I should say, did I watch the XFL opening weekend? A little bit. I didn't watch a full game. I'll be completely transparent on that. I did not watch a full game, but I did watch some of it, and it was not bad. As a matter of fact, I thought the attendance was not bad. Not great, right? But not bad. And this is something that if you don't know me, you might not know. I have an incredible affection for these little startup leagues, the XFL, the USFL. I worked for a couple of years in the UFL, the United Football League. These things hold a lot of fascination for me. They really do. The fascination that I see sometimes in myself for these is more of a macabre sort of a fascination, like, oh, fuck, how long is it going to be until this thing goes up in flames? But I don't want that to happen. So, Thomas, I did watch some. I thought it was okay. Was it great? No, but it was okay. Maddie from the Recov checking in once again said, DK Metcalf can fly. Holy shit. This is something that Maddie and I were talking about en route to the Good Fight's fundraising dinner on Saturday night. By the way, Nate Coleman from the Good Fight, you're my dude. I can't wait to have you back on the program. We talked to Nate on Thursday if you missed the show. And Nate not only runs an incredible program here in the city of La Crosse called The Good Fight, he's also a former Gold Gloves boxer who had a record of 40-5 as a Gold Gloves boxer and is a wealth, a plethora of boxing information, knowledge, and history. We're going to bring Nate back on the program because I want to talk boxing with this guy. But en route to Nate's Good Fight fundraiser, me and Matt were talking about DK Metcalf, like tearing it up at the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game. I've got to watch that. I know that you said you would put that video on our Facebook group page, Maddie. I hope you did. I haven't been up there to check, but I've got to watch that. That was really something that you and I went back and forth on, and we're like, okay, so DK Metcalf, Matt said, is probably one of those guys, very few NFL football players that could, like, you know, if he had to transition into something like professional basketball. Now, I don't know if he'd be able to be a pro basketball player, but at least he'd be an exciting guy, kind of like that Matt McClung who won that dunk contest. Let's see. We've got Facebook user. I want to say this is Jeff. I'm going to have to go back and check to see if this is Jeff right now. You look like you need 4 days of darkness. Yes, I do. I probably look and feel like 4 days of darkness if you actually saw me in person. But we'll get there. We'll get there. This is one fun thing that we do get to do broadcasting from the Trauma Center studios is dress it up in a way in which I don't necessarily look like I've just climbed out of a hyperbolic chamber for the better part of the weekend, which, you know, could be said in some cases. That's kind of like what we did. So take this morning's poll questions, guys and gals. We've got them up there on the Twitter feed, as mentioned, at the Sports Carney, and the Facebook group page. I love that we've got some other options being put up here. We've got the Redneck Super Bowl put up by James Jacobson, a.k.a. Boone's Farm, for the Daytona 500. I love that. Getting 26% of the vote right now. The Redneck Super Bowl, the Daytona 500. Cocaine Bear just getting 6%. Nobody, I guess, that's watching this program went to see that. And the XFL getting 34% on our Facebook group page. Up there on Twitter, on our Twitter feed, Cocaine Bear leading actually right now with 35.3%. The XFL 29.4%. The NBA All-Star Game at 23.5%. And college basketball at just 11.8%. All right, we're going to step aside, take a really quick break here on the Sports Carnival, say what's up to our good friends over at the Recovery Room. Back at it tonight at 4 with bingo at 7. When we return, our Green and Gold Insider Joe Daguanno, maybe he can help us make some sense out of what the Jets are doing. They get Derek Carr in the house. Does this mean they're not going after Aaron? We'll talk about that in just a second. Stay tuned. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Do you have a wedding, anniversary party, or bat mitzvah coming up in your life? Then you need Hey Duda DJ Services, featuring Neil Duda, the Midwest Eminem.
No doubt about it, I'm done hammered, and that's every day. Brains so cloudy, dog.
Dropping sick beats while you enjoy your treats. No party is too big or too small. Quinceañeras, graduations, ice cream socials, or cockhold parties. Whatever the celebration, Hey Duda is rocking the foundation.
Here we go again, back with all our friends. Here comes the pain.
Neil Duda.
And welcome back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio, powered by the Recovery Room, sending a special shout out to our fantastic friends over at BetUS. Get aboard the BetUS train now. BetUS.com, enter promo code Carnival, and snag 125% free play money. If you want to make futures bets on Aaron Rodgers and where he lands, BetUS is a great place to go. Or Green and Gold Insider, the Mad Dog of Madison, International Male Model of the Year, 1996. And second up in 1998, Joe Daguanno is here with us. Top of the morning, Joe. For Morning Wood, I'm just going to say howdy. I know that Morning Wood's been desperate to see you on the show again. So here we go, baby. How you feeling today?
You know what? It's a Monday, and you know, outside of the craptastic weather that's going to be hitting all of Wisconsin, it sounds like this week, because I'm going to be all over Hell's Half Acre this week. I've got to go Madison to Eau Claire, Eau Claire back to Madison, Madison back to Eau Claire to Galena. And I'm like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do this. So I need for the Sports Carnival to get that jet that we've been talking about, man. So we can just like jet around to these places.
Yeah, indeed. We're working on this. I mean, obviously, it's one of our next up promotional things. We're going to be getting that plane. I think that Matt from the Recub is basically looking to sell all real estate in order to get us a plane. And we'll get you around. Joe, the weather this week is something that's interesting because it's beautiful today, right? Going to be 45 degrees. And then we are looking at getting one of these epic fucking winter storms in February. Like for 2 or 3 days, we're supposed to just get like deluged with snow. What's your biggest, okay, if you're traveling and you've got a travel tip for people in the snow, because you are driving all over, what's your biggest travel tip in that particular situation?
You know, it's in all seriousness, go slow. You know, I'm a Wisconsinite, born and raised, lived in Michigan for 5.5 years. So pretty much been all over this Midwest area. My travel is pretty much Midwest travel. And I just realized, you know, it's not worth it as far as trying to get there 15 minutes faster when you normally see people in situations like this. And don't get me wrong, I tend to drive fast. And so my wife says it all the time, but in conditions like that, I take it slow, man. It's just not fucking worth it.
Yeah, it's really not. I know that it sounds glib just to be like, just take it slow. But no, seriously, if you've got to be a half an hour late, everybody understands. It's really not awesome. I see Rob Dog checking in this morning, and he's like, say it ain't so, Joe. Say it ain't so. Everyone with the weather forecast, listen, this is big news. And we've been blessed with some really moderate temperatures recently, which, again, is somebody who was not a Wisconsinite born and raised, but somebody who was, now a Wisconsinite probably for the rest of my life. I'll take it, man. I mean, I'll take a couple days in February where it's 40, 45 degrees. I know we're going to get something, right? Like, I do know that is going to happen. But if you can give me a couple of days of reprieve, I'm fine. It gives me a chance to hit the theater perhaps and see this movie that everybody is talking about called Cocaine Bear. Joe,
I have not seen it. I got to be honest. I have not seen it. I've heard nothing but good things about it. And so when you talked about weekend highlights, I watched a little XFL. I watched a little of the All-Star game. Went out and saw Ant-Man in the Quantumania this weekend. And also got to admit this, and this is the, when you get Joe Daguanno, you get kind of a full spectrum, kind of a throwback, kind of a renaissance, man, because I also watched a little bit of the Tournament of Champions last night on the Food Network with Guy Fieri. So, I mean, a little bit of everything. And I will tell you, talking about Cocaine Bear and talking about what was going on this weekend, some interesting nuances from the XFL. And I love that 4th and 15 instead of the onside kick. Now, my only question is, what's the percentage of getting 4th and 15 from your own 25 versus the onside kick? And I'm going to make it an assumption that they did their research on this, but I don't mind that at all. I thought that was a pretty cool nuance that it brought out. And again, anytime that I can watch fucking football, it's a beautiful thing. I woke up yesterday morning, DC, and I got work done in the morning, and I was cranking shit out and turned on NFL Network, and lo and behold, it was the Steeler-Packers Super Bowl from 2011.
Yes.
And I watched that, pretty much from start to finish. I caught it right at the beginning of it. So football never quits. And it's interesting. One of the reasons I got to be up in Eau Claire tomorrow is I'm running a quarterback camp now for kids. And so 5:15 tomorrow morning, doing a little QB work with some kids up there. But it's it was a good weekend. It was a balanced weekend, but shit's coming. I just got to tell you, I don't care if it's 4 inches or 20, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. And I know that, most of our lady listeners are saying, please, dear God, let it be 20 inches. If we're going to be coming, let's come with 20 inches. The XFL is, Joe, something that I was really fascinated to watch a little bit of this weekend as well. And, listen, it's never going to be the NFL, and that's not its intent or its design in any way, right? It's just not. So for anybody that thinks, well, it's not as good as NFL, we get it. It's never going to be as good as NFL football. But I thought the stadiums dressed really well. I thought that they picked right size stadiums for the most part. You can only go so small, but I think they picked right size stadiums for the most part. I thought the crowds, from what I noticed anyways, were there. They were fairly enthusiastic. The quality of football, Joe, I thought was better than average. do you tend to agree the coaching, which, by the way, they've got some good coaches, coaching, play, and presentation, to me, it felt legitimate. It really did.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I want nothing more than to have a spring football season of some type. And obviously we've seen a lot of iterations. The he hate me XFL years. This goes back to the USFL days, of course,
Sure.
and Donald Trump was involved with that. And so as a football fan, as a coach of football, as somebody who talks about football, I love the opportunity. And look, I still think that spring football needs to be some type of almost a minor league feeder program for the NFL. I do. I think that there needs to be some type of official, and that's why I did love it with the European Football League when they did that. That you could put players out there, give them some playing time. They come back and they can actually make an NFL roster. So I think when you look at it from just a perspective of should there be football in the spring, I think absolutely yes. I don't have any problem with it. It's finding the right mix, and you're right. It's never going to be the NFL. It really isn't. And so for me, good stuff. I'm putting it where it is in its box. It is what it is. It's an opportunity to watch some football. And for me, if the NFL can take one or two things a year from another league and get out of their own way and get out of their own ego, I think it's a good thing, because the NFL, although it's the best professional league we have, it has a lot of room to grow. And I think if you can look at something else and say, you know what, we're going to steal that, then it's a good thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Spring football it's been a thirst for this nation for some time, right? We have been knocking on the door or the window of spring football league because people want more football. When the NFL ends after the Super Bowl, there is a collective depression that settles over, I would say 40% of men in this country. And this is real. I'm not telling you it's going to be a pronounced depression, but it feels like you have missed something, like a friend of yours that you can't get back until, I don't know, August. And when you get something like the XFL or the USFL, it does tend to scratch a little bit of an itch. Now, we're junkies in that particular case, so I get it. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I do like your idea of making an official feeder because, Joe, truly, this is a conversation that I had over the weekend. I can't recall who it was with, but I was talking to a gentleman about the NFL and really where the next step of the evolution of college and NFL pro football goes, because as we're seeing, college football is turning into a semi-professional league of its own, right? So and that won't ever change. We're not going to get rid of Alabama, but I do think there is something to be said about the G League, minor league baseball, the AHL in hockey, where you can have officially assigned guys. Maybe the whole roster isn't made up of your players for that particular team, but you have officially assigned guys that are able to work within your system. And that is something that would really be interesting to me if the NFL ever decided, look, we're going to put all these little things to bed and we're going to do NFL springtime and it'll be a feeder program to the league. They could run this, the Packers could be running their offensive systems, right? They could be putting in place their cultures, and to bring players on, some of whom may play for your team, some of whom may never do that, but to bring players on to have them work in your system, I think that's incredibly beneficial. And I know that the G League doesn't get watched. It's not like a watched on TV thing. Get some attendance in the cities in which it's at, but that's what they do. You're the Milwaukee Bucks. You get sent to the herd because you need some practice or some work on your game. You're going to be playing within the Milwaukee Bucks system. The coaching staffs are in simpatico. They're going to work that in. I think that could be something. We'll see. I thought The Rock and his group, though, for what it's worth, did a good job of putting together the opening weekend. I don't know how much interest will last in week 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll see. But I thought they did a good job this opening weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm going to make the transition here. And, first of all, you mentioned G League. I'm going to bring up a name, Christian Wood, who started in the G League for the Bucks and is now a starter in the NBA. And so, it works there. Now, also, let's make that transition. Wouldn't it have been nice if Jordan Love, drafted in 2020, when all the fans out there, and I still argue this, Green Bay knows exactly what they have with Jordan Love, everybody. So, but it would have been nice if you had Jordan Love and you say, all right, Jordan, go play 4 games in our spring season. All right. Because we drafted you knowing, and it's interesting because I started looking back at some of the Jordan Love. I looked back at his combine tape this weekend. And I was looking at his tape and I was listening very closely to what the announcers were saying about his tape. And one of the questions thrown out there, and I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, threw it out and said, is Jordan Love a day one starter, or is he a kid that you need to build around or build up, I should say? And so, the response was, this is a kid that needs to develop because he wasn't in a pro style offense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you could see all the wow throws, and you could see how the ball came out easily, and you could see those things. And so if you have that developmental league, wouldn't it have been nice to see what you have in the spring? Now, again, football, a lot more injuries happen. I get all of that. And so there's a definite downside to it. But I think, you could have had a situation where, all right, we're putting Jordan Love in a 4-game season in the spring of 2021, especially after COVID, because he didn't have a chance to get a preseason and all that kind of stuff his rookie year. So, I mean, I get all that. So realistically, could you say, yeah, let's look at this and say, what do we have with a developmental league? And again, you mentioned the Derek Carr news we got to talk about. We got Aaron Jones, and we got to get into Bob McGinn because, man, McGinn woke up last week. Hard. It just went hard. So you tell me where you want to start, man, because I made, and again, the radio guy in me made that transition. So now we got to transition into that topic. So you tell me where to go next, brother.
Well, I love this, and you're just great because this is exactly why we bring you on. You're not only a smart Packer guy, but you know how to do this damn dance, and that's one of the reasons that we love having you. I want to start here with Derek Carr because Derek Carr is a free agent. Aaron Rodgers is not. If the Packers end up moving on from Rodgers, they're going to get a lot of draft compensation, or at least player compensation we would expect to come back. The Jets made an interesting move. They went ahead and met with Carr first, okay? First stop that Derek Carr made was actually the Saints, but this is when he is now an official free agent. So he makes his first stop with the Jets. Now, from what I understand, not Nathaniel Hackett, but the quarterback's coach with the Jets has had a long relationship with Derek Carr. He's worked with him for years, and apparently these guys really like each other. Okay, so if, in fact, the Jets do decide to entertain Derek Carr, how many landing spots realistically are there for Aaron Rodgers outside of Green Bay?
I'd have to say it this way, and we brought up a couple, and I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to say, let's say the Jets go with Carr, and I think it's a great move to bring Carr in. He's a free agent at this point. I mean, why not? I mean, you don't have to give up trade compensation for him. And so, it's a great move. You're doing your due diligence. It's interesting. Last week, DC, because I was talking to our good friend Dan Casper in Eau Claire, and we talked about Jalen Hurts, and did Philadelphia know what they had in Jalen Hurts? If they did, why'd they go after Deshaun Watson? Well, you owe it to yourself as an NFL GM to do your due diligence. And if I can get Derek Carr for free, when I talk about free, I'm talking about trade compensation. You don't have to give up anything to get him. Yeah, you gotta sign him to a big contract, but you're gonna have to do that with Rodgers as well. So you might as well kick the tires on Derek Carr. When you look at other landing spots, I still think absolutely great point by Soul Surfer right there, 28th in passing this year, which is notable. And is he on his way out of the league? I don't think so. There's always a place for a guy like Derek Carr. I mean, look at Kirk Cousins, for fuck's sake. I mean, they're the same quarterback in my opinion. I mean, they really are great stats, but can they put you over the top? So
Carr wins in the fourth quarter at least. At least we know that. Carr wins in the fourth quarter.
Let's look now at the other landing spots. I still think the Raiders are a big play there. Now the question is going to be, in my opinion, can Rodgers get along with Josh McDaniel? I think that's going to be the biggest thing. But Mark Davis is going to love Aaron Rodgers and selling tickets with Aaron Rodgers. And so that's one. I say Tennessee is still number two. And again, I think that's a really good fit. Now, he loves the music scene. Randall Cobb has land down there. David Bakhtiari has a place down there. It's reported Rodgers has bought some land in that area. And so, I think that's an area. I think two wild cards. And I really thought through this now, where I think the whole NFC thing is overblown just a bit. It's not like the Favre situation. So I think Green Bay could also have a conversation with Carolina.
That's interesting.
I don't think that's out of the question, especially with Frank Reich there as the head coach. I also think, and I'm just throwing this out there, that John Schneider is still the GM of the Seattle Seahawks, and John Schneider was in Green Bay when they drafted Aaron Rodgers. And so, again, would Seattle be a move? I mean, if you're going to pay Geno Smith $30 to $40 million, why don't you pay Aaron Rodgers $50 million at that point? So, I'd say that those still, I'd say the Raiders, behind the Jets, I still think the Jets are a really strong play for them. But I think the Raiders are a place. I think Tennessee. I think that if you look at the NFC, you're looking at Carolina and Seattle as possible landing spots. So, we're going to know soon. I think sometime within the next week or so, whether or not Rodgers wants to retire, come back a Packer, be open to a trade, whatever the fuck he wants to do. And I've said this, for a while now. My gut tells me that he does get traded this time around. I just feel it's the right time. And so there are still plenty of suitors out there. And I guarantee you, despite what Bob McGinn thinks about Aaron Rodgers, he is still a valuable commodity for a team that thinks that they're a quarterback away.
So this is interesting, Joe, because as we're talking about this Rodgers situation, and I agree, there's going to be suitors. The guy can still sling it, right? Like that's something that is, as long as he can do that, there will be suitors. They may be fewer than they would have been 10 years ago, but regardless, there's still suitors. I still think a dark horse in this particular conversation is the Colts because I like where they're at with their draft spot. I think that gives them an easier push to bring a guy like Rodgers on. I think their cap situation is pretty decent. The thing about Bob McGinn, and I want to use this as a transference, and the city of New York is this. Bob McGinn still works in one of the friendliest media states in the country when it comes to covering sports guys. Aaron Rodgers does not do well with people that push back on him in any significant way. He does not handle this well. I don't want to be the guy to burst his bubble because, listen, I know Aaron Rodgers is way smarter than most of us, so I'm sure that he knows this. But he goes to New York, and guess what he's going to deal with? Fucking reporters that think they're bigger celebrities than he is. And they don't give a fuck about Aaron Rodgers or his feelings or his inner circle, and they will grill this guy. If he goes through a season like he went through with Green Bay, which, again, he had a couple of good games. We can't take that away from him. But largely, and I saw him with my own two eyes, he was throwing shit in the dirt. He was not looking good. If he goes through a season like that in New York, he will get eviscerated. People don't remember this in many ways because they don't want to. Brett Favre was awesome in New York until he got hurt with that shoulder. They were undefeated. They were 8-0. Easily the class of the AFC that particular year, and probably would have made a real push against the Patriots for a Super Bowl. It would be hard to see how they wouldn't have. But if Aaron doesn't come out and perform exactly as good as Brett Favre, he's going to get dug a grave every single week. So I don't know that he likes that particular scenario. I don't know that he cares because, again, he thinks he's going to be an MVP anyway. So I don't know if that enters into his particular modus operandi. But I do think guys like Bob McGinn are going to be the norm, not the exception. But I do want to talk about Bob McGinn because over the weekend we had, really good Packer news. Aaron Jones and his agent decide we don't want to get released. And I saw you tweet this out. We don't want to get released. We want to work with the team. We want to restructure the contract, and they do. Go from $15 million base salary to $11 million, gives the Packers a lot more room there and flexibility. And I think that for a guy like Aaron Jones, this shows you that he wants to be a Packer. And this, as Packer fans, we really like. But back to the Bob McGinn thing, being that he is a reporter here in Wisconsin of some note, what do you think got into his Cheerios? Like, who went and pissed in them? Because he was just mad. And the thing about Bob McGinn in this particular situation, he was pulling from absolutely no sourcing other than his own instinct. I'm like, fuck this. I mean, this is where we're going in America now, where all facts are just because you feel it. Like, well, I feel this to be true, so it must be. What do you think got into this guy?
Well, here's the McGinn story, and I've been following Bob for a long time, and used to have a lot of respect for him. I mean, he covered the Packers for 38 years, and so he started in the 90s. And here's the thing with McGinn back in the day, he was the trusted confidant of Ron Wolf. If Ron Wolf wanted something to get out, and these are the days back when I was much more engaged on a regular basis with the Wisconsin media, and if Ron Wolf wanted something to get out about one of his players or about a situation, he would let McGinn know about it. I mean, I'll tell you the story. Leroy Butler, McGinn wrote a scathing story about Butler early on in his career, and I will tell you, 99% sure, based on what I know and what I knew at the time, that Wolf wanted McGinn to write that story because Wolf felt that Butler had more in him. And so Bob McGinn, for the longest time, was the direct pipeline to Ron Wolf. And what happened after Ron Wolf is there's a couple of guys, there's a couple of state reporters that McGinn being one of them, Tyler Dunn, who does the Go Long TD, who actually McGinn's podcast was another one. There's a couple of other ones out there. When Ted Thompson got on board, and then when Aaron Rodgers became quarterback, essentially these longtime good old boys who were in the inner circle got cock blocked. And there's a lot of personal angst now with Rodgers and the Packers because of that. And so, for looking at what McGinn said, he said, using his own instincts, quote, knowledge of the NFL and discussions with someone who has firsthand knowledge of the organization, McGinn says the Packers are done with Rodgers. He's not coming back. They're disgusted with him, and they're done with him, and they're moving on. And then it gets worse, because then McGinn basically says that the Packers didn't see Rodgers as the guy who worked hard anymore. And then McGinn went into the fact that he's a first-time Hall of Fame ballot guy is a crock of shit, is what McGinn said. He said he's not even a top 18 quarterback of all time. So when you start throwing that crap out, you lose all respect. You lose all sense of reality, because if you're the only guy out there screaming loud that this is happening, and look, everyone to a person, knowledgeable of football, not hates Aaron Rodgers, doesn't hate him. He's a first-time Hall of Fame ballot guy. He is. And for McGinn to say he's not even in the top 18, you lose all credibility in that report. So, I don't put any credence or credibility into this report. And I think, when you go out and like you said, based on what I know about the NFL, well, guess what? Based on what I know about the NFL, Aaron Rodgers is a first-time Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer. So, McGinn, it just, and I used to love him, DC. I honestly, he was one of the journalists in this state I absolutely respected. And I felt, if you wanted to know what was going on with the Green Bay Packers, McGinn was the guy. He was the guy, and he had a direct pipeline to Ron Wolf. Matter of fact, I'll tell you, when Ron Wolf made a trade for Amon Green and he fleeced the Seahawks, Fred Vinson was the quarterback that he traded for Amon Green. And there was some animosity between Holmgren and Wolf building up at this point. And McGinn reported, because McGinn, and again, this is Ron Wolf planning the story, because the question was, what did Mike Holmgren think of this trade? And Wolf's response was, I didn't even talk to him about it. So, and McGinn reported that story. So back in the day, ton of respect for McGinn. Bob McGinn, he's crotchety. He's full of angst because he's no longer in the inner circle of the Green Bay Packers. And it's just kind of one of those things where you look at it and put it in its box and say, it is what it is. Bob, keep on doing your thing with Tyler Dunn. And those of you remember, Tyler Dunn wrote the scathing article about Rodgers a couple of years ago that basically said that, and he interviewed Jermichael Finley and Greg Jennings. I'm like, okay, you want to find shit, you're going to go to those two guys. And so I put no credence or credibility into the report. Now, here's the thing. Could the Packers be ready to move on? I've said this all along. It goes back to what they feel about Jordan Love. That's what this goes back to. It has nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. It says everything to do, if they truly feel Jordan Love is ready, then they make that move. If they don't, they're going to do whatever they can to bring him in. I don't think Green Bay felt Jordan Love was ready last year, or I don't think they would have thrown $150 million at Aaron Rodgers and structured the deal like it was. So I put McGinn's article in the box, and like you said, when you look at, his own knowledge of the NFL, his own gut, and someone close to the Packers. Well, guess what? The Barre hangout in Green Bay, the D2, is close to Lambeau Field. So I talk to the bartenders all the time there, and they feel the exact opposite. So I talked to someone close to Green Bay.
Yeah, I saw this, and when I read your tweet, the retweet, and then I kind of dug into what exactly it was that was being spewed out there, I did chuckle. And listen, while all of those things may be anecdotally true, right? That may all anecdotally be true. It has no basis in reality. And one of the things that I have a little bit of a hard time going along with nowadays is just a rush to judgment on absolutely zero basis of factual knowledge. And listen, again, anecdotally, maybe he stumbles upon something, the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while, even a broken clock's right twice a day. There are things that could be true about that. But I will say that in my own conversations with a couple of people who do have knowledge of the Green Bay Packers, because we've got some fairly localized ties to this Green Bay Packer team, there is becoming an internal, I wouldn't say it's an outright desire, but an internal motivation to reset this clock a little bit here, because we can tell that the NFL is structured in such a way with the salary cap that you can't go forever with these big price quarterbacks and expect to win Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes is the one of two now outside of Peyton Manning that's actually been able to upset that narrative. And congratulations, Patrick Mahomes is a special kind of quarterback, class of his own. But the Packers understand that the rest of the NFL, including themselves, have to start looking at this thing with rookie contract windows. Even if Bryce Young, Jordan Love's guaranteed contract and a fifth-year option of $20 million, that's still a value. That's a bargain in the NFL, right? In comparison to what we used to, or what we're seeing with some of these guys. So I think there is a little bit of what Bob says that is true, but it's not like he's coming from any point or any place, of factual knowledge. And in that respect, I just find it to be almost debasing to bring those types of things up, because again, we joke around on this program. This isn't to be taken seriously when we say shit about Rodgers. This is for fun. And yes, we make some points and we can validate things that we see, but we're not trying to break news. And I think that for Bob, this has possibly jumped the shark a little bit. Listen, if he was with Ron Wolf, Bob's getting long in the tooth too. So maybe part of this is just, I've met Ron, good guy, but dude is old. And I think, Bob may be getting onto that frontal dementia like Bruce Willis or something.
You know what Bob is turning into? He's turning into the crotchety guys up in the balcony of the Muppet Show. Yeah. He's basically like, yelling at Fozzie Bear and Kermit the Frog now, saying, you fucking suck. You fucking suck. So, by the way, somebody had a question about what's happening. There it is with Justin Fields with the Bears. Rob Dog wanted to know the BS meter with trading Justin Fields away to draft Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. It's a huge smokescreen. They're trying to pump the value up on that pick. And so, that's what you do. And it's the same thing. Look, there's a corollary with the Green Bay Packers and Rodgers right now. If anyone felt like they were disgusted with Aaron Rodgers, which I don't think so, you're not going to say it. And you're not going to say we're thoroughly disgusted with him and ready to move on, because you lose all trade value at that point, and you lose all trade negotiation at that point. So, yeah, I think the Bears, they're riding Justin Fields as far as they can get them. This is the time of year with the draft coming up, and when you're dealing with quarterbacks and trade and those types of things, there's a lot of smoke screens put out there. There's a lot of shit being put out there. And I'm reading, it's interesting. I'm reading The Packer Way now again by Ron Wolf. And he talks about the Brett Favre situation. And he knew when he was with the Jets that he wanted Favre. And he had to be very careful going through things. And he had to put out some smoke screens with the Favre situation. So, right now, this is the peak. This is the pinnacle, if you will, of bullshit being thrown out by NFL people, because they've got to make other people believe that they're heading in this direction so they can get more. And so, yeah, it's an interesting. And when McGinn went off, I shook my head. And after I dug into it more, I'm like, dude, you just became, like I said, one of the old guys at the Muppets. Spewing on poor Kermit the Frog down there. Now, the other side of this that I want to get into, we touched on it lightly, Aaron Jones, man. That really for me, when you look at his cash in 2023 went from 16 to 11. His cap number went from 20 to 8. His total cap savings, about $12 million, just shy of that. And so, you look at a guy, and again, he realizes it. He says to himself, I'm 28, 29 years old. I've got some mileage now on the legs. Soul Surfer, feel like Aaron Jones will end up coaching in the front office in the Packers. Yeah, I agree with that, man. I think this guy's right there. And he reminds me, kind of another back who has ties to the Raiders now, Edgar Bennett, who's the wide receiver coach of the Raiders. He reminds me a lot of him as far as carrying the G. But Aaron Jones, man, I tell you, there's a guy that for the next 4 or 5 years, I mean, there's some voidable years on the end of that deal. I mean, you're probably looking at him 23 and 24 and then reevaluating, because 25, 26, 27 are voidable years is what they did with the restructure. And so, but there's a guy, in my opinion, who's an underrated back in the NFL. And I think you're arguing that he could be top 5, top 6 back in the NFL. And I think he's a guy you can build an offense around. And I'm actually kind of excited when I look at this offense that's building for the Green Bay Packers, regardless of who the quarterback is, because you've got young wide receivers now. You've got Dillon, you've got Jones, who's going to be a Green Bay Packer. I think Aaron Jones was dangerously close to being cut with that $20 million cap number.
He was.
I just don't think I think the Packers actually said, look, dude, we are going to cut you. And I think Aaron said, the best place for me to be is in Green Bay with or without Aaron Rodgers. And so, you compare the two Aarons right now, and I go back. Look, Aaron Rodgers, when I watched that Steeler-Packers Super Bowl, he was all about the Green Bay Packers. And times change. And Tom Brady was all about New England, and Michael Jordan was all about the Bulls. And, I mean, times change, folks. And you know what? We do it in our own lives as we get older, that you're like, you know what? I'm sick of this job. I'm sick of this place. I want to do something different. So, for me, and I haven't said it in a while, but the bottom line is that Rodgers is going to do, the Packers are going to do what's best for the organization. And within that framework, try to do probably what's best for Aaron Rodgers. But the number one thing is they're going to do, if they feel Jordan Love's the guy, they're going to make that move. Aaron Jones, they feel that, hey, Aaron Jones at an $8 million cap number is better than 20. Yeah, he's worth it. And so they're going to do what's best for the organization.
So I want to just touch briefly on this, Joe. Aaron Jones talking, not this weekend, but I want to say it was last weekend. It was at the Pro Bowl, actually. So it was a couple of weekends back. But talking about the Packers and the offensive guys, especially being ready for Jordan Love. And he went out of his way to shower some praise on Jordan Love and said, listen, this kid is ready. We see him in practice. His confidence level has risen. His ability has risen. And he went on to talk about that game. I know it wasn't a large sample against the Detroit Lions. Listen, at some point, things end for all of us. It doesn't matter who we are or where we are. None of us is getting out of this thing alive. The Packers are going to have to turn the page. Jordan Love's going to be that guy. They're not going to, I don't see anybody else coming in to fill that spot right now. I happen to think this is the year. Where he goes is still a mystery, a beautiful one. And we'll see. We'll see as the darkness sort of, lifts around Rodgers, what he wants to do. I do not think he retires. I absolutely think that he thinks of the retirement ceremony, the Hall of Fame ceremony. I don't believe that he wouldn't think about retiring in the same year as Tom Brady and see that as a bit of a, a bit of a ho-hum for himself going in and getting that gold jacket, which again, Bob, against fucking crazy. Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's not even a single question about that being the case. So in that respect, I think the Packers are going to move on. I think that they'll do, if they can, what's good for Aaron Rodgers. But if they can't, they're going to do what's best for themselves.
Yep.
The bottom line is Green Bay's a business and Aaron Rodgers is a part of a business. Absolutely. But he's not the only part, and they'll figure out ways to move this on. Joe, I'm going to say la vie for today, but thank you so much for coming on to the show this morning. You have really helped us because there were so many different topics that we had to cover, and there's only a few guys like yourself that are qualified enough to transition us from, Cocaine Bear and the Ant-Man into Bob McGinn, Aaron Jones, and Aaron Rodgers.
But you forgot also the TOC on the Food Network, brother. I mean, well, this goes back to, remember, you and I used to talk music. We still can talk music. We are Renaissance men. And once again, you are the benevolent kingpin, and we're just renting space in your universe, my man.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you're here renting space, Joe. The rent is going to raise at some point, but that's okay. It's the changing nature of real estate. Have a great day and a great week. Listen, we'll be in touch. Stay safe. Travel safely out there. Say what's up to our friends at Eau Claire, Dan Casper, and, of course, your lovely wife, Lynn. Thanks, Joe.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices. Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home, or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Welcome on back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio. I am Dave Garney, and yes, you are living in my universe. I am the benevolent kingpin, and thanks so much to our good buddy Joe Daguanno, our Green and Gold Insider, for jumping aboard. Jen Bank checking in and saying, Mondays are just better because of Joe D. I agree, Jen. Mondays are also better when I see Jen Bank's name popping up here. If you are just joining the program, oh boy, we've covered a lot of ground, from Cocaine Bear to college basketball to the XFL to Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. If you could take this morning's poll question, jump up to our Twitter feed at The Sports Carney, or if you're a member of the Facebook group page, and answer this: what was the most exciting thing that you watched over the weekend? And we can absolutely add into the Facebook group page the Cooking Network thing that Joe was talking about with Guy Fieri. But the answers that you're able to choose from on Twitter at The Sports Carney, when asked what was the most exciting thing to watch: Cocaine Bear, 38.9% of votes. The NBA All-Star Game, 22.2%. And that can include, of course, the dunk competition. I'm using that as a catch-all, the All-Star on our Twitter feed. The XFL getting 27.8% of responses. And then college basketball, just 11.1%. Again, the Wisconsin Badgers took a real bad beat, losing by 1 to Rutgers. And I don't think that, despite what Matty Ice would say, I don't think that they have necessarily ruined their chances to make the big dance here, the March Madness tournament specifically, but they didn't do themselves any favors. That is for sure. Now, looking over at our Facebook group page, we have the same options that we do on our Twitter feed, except we've added in the Genesis Open, because Tiger Woods made his return to PGA Golf, and he actually played pretty good. He was -1. He stayed competitive throughout the event. At one point, he was -4. I think he was 4 under par at one point. And that was a pretty good round of golf for Tiger. He actually birdied his first hole, which was neat to see. So I put the Genesis Open up there. I also have on, added by our good buddy James Jacobson, a.k.a. Boone's Farm, the Redneck Super Bowl, a.k.a. the Daytona 500, which is getting, interestingly, 26% of the votes now. Oh, that's just gone up to 34% of the votes, while the NBA All-Star getting 20%, XFL 28%, Genesis Open getting 10%, Cocaine Bear and college basketball just 4% apiece. Listen, I think the XFL did good. I thought that from what I saw, it was well-dressed, well-produced. The game seemed to be competitive. It seemed to be good enough football. Again, I didn't give it a full watch, so I can't give you a really specific take on that, but it looked good from what I saw. That is a thing. The Cocaine Bear movie, I know that's taken over box offices. Ant-Man's probably going to get more money when all is said and done, because it's a Marvel thing and kids are going to go see it. But we've had some great, not good, but great reviews come out about that movie. And again, this is getting to the point of the year, guys and gals, where we do transition from football for the most part into basketball, college basketball or NBA, whichever is your particular flavor of basketball. If you like it, then this is getting to be one of those exciting times of the year. So if you haven't yet taken this morning's poll question, appreciate it if you could do that. Jen's got this to follow up with. She's got to make it to the recovery room one of these days. Yes, you do. Now, Jen, the recovery room is not open today until 4 p.m., but later this evening, we do have bingo. Bingo is going to be from 7 to about 9-ish. I'm going to be hosting your bingo. Once again, we have a lot of great prizes. Thanks to our friends at Jameson Irish Whiskey and the Milwaukee Bucks, we have some great prizes to give away, some really good swag. So if you're a Bucks fan, you're a Jameson fan, you definitely want to come and play some bingo with us at the recovery room. P12 Foreman's actually putting this out here in the ether. Who's going to bingo tonight to hang out before he goes under the knife tomorrow? Our man Foreman is going to be undergoing a very, very serious surgery. And I'm not joking about this at all. So I would love to see everyone that can make it out tonight, make it out to the Recov and spend some time with us. Hang out, play some bingo. Let's take a look at Jeremy before he goes under the knife once again and say, yeah, this guy right here, Bionic Man, how the fuck did that work out? Interesting. Jeremy Foreman, I told his wife, Ashley, when I saw her last week, he might actually become the first cyborg because Foreman's a former military guy, right? So as an Air Forceman, you know they're going to keep experimenting on you. You know that's a thing, right? The surgeries that you have from now on, Jeremy, are going to start to become like the experimental kinds of surgeries. At some point, I think Foreman becomes a cyborg. I really do. Then I asked her how she felt about the $6 million man. Of course, Ashley's too young. She doesn't remember that show. But needless to say, she thought that would be about what the medical bills would probably look like. Thank God for the VA, right? Thank God for the VA. I like Thomas checking in here. UWL Thomas says, prayers for a safe surgery, Foreman. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And Thomas, I sure appreciate that, man. That's really nice of you. That is really nice of you. Mike Byers was checking in this morning here. Wanted to send a shout out there to Mike, our favorite Texan in Wisconsin, saying, morning, guys. Always a good day when Joe D is around. Absolutely. And Maddie from the recovery room is giving us this little factoid. So he and I were talking about DK Metcalf, as I mentioned, en route to the Good Fights fundraiser dinner this weekend over at the Moose Lodge. And when we were talking about DK Metcalf dunking and like jumping out of the gym, you know, we're both like, this dude's a real serious athlete. I mean, not just a football player. This guy's an athlete. I think DK Metcalf also tried out for the Olympics, didn't he? A couple of years ago. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I think that I think that DK Metcalf did try out for some sort of track event. Maybe it wasn't the Olympics, but it was some professional track event. So he definitely is a good athlete. But Maddie says this, the NFL is testing DK Metcalf for roids after the NBA weekend, confirmed by numerous sports sites. Interesting how that works out, right? So DK Metcalf out there looking like an athlete. All of a sudden, the NFL is like, yeah, we're going to test you for what? Come on. First of all, it's the offseason. Who cares? I mean, what is he going to serve a 4-game suspension for, you know, I don't know, taking a diuretic in the middle of an off season? I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know they could just randomly test you because they saw you on TV. I guess it's part of the collective bargaining agreement, but needless to say, that's not surprising, Matt. Appreciate you giving us that. Let's see. Jason P1 Breacher is checking in here. The first cyborg to be addicted to streaming. And indeed. See, now that would be an interesting movie, right? So if we could have Cocaine Bear, what about Cocaine Cyborg starring Jeremy P12 Foreman? Maybe that's maybe that's an idea whose time has come. And then, of course, Breacher following up with love you, Foreman. Good luck and blessings. Well, don't forget, tonight, bingo. If you can make it, Breach, if the Stacy says this is something you can do, come on down. We'll see you about 7 o'clock. As mentioned, a lot of great prizes tonight. First bingo card is absolutely free. Should be a good time. I know UWL's Thomas and Rob Dog, once they turn 21, they'll be at the recovery room with us too. I can see that. Thomas is really wanting to get my take more on XFL weekend. Thomas, I've been telling you throughout the program, I didn't watch a whole game. I thought it looked okay, though. I really did. I thought the presentation, from what I saw, was professional. I thought that the play looked competent. There are big-name coaches in this. Jeremy P12 Foreman was mentioning Wade Phillips' name earlier. The coach of the Houston Roughnecks says maybe Wade Phillips finally gets his championship ring. That is something. Thomas says XFL fans resorted to unique methods of protest after security took away their beer snake? Lemons. See, I did not see that. But you're giving me some food for thought here. That's for sure. One of our Facebook group members checking in and saying this, prayers for a speedy recovery, Jeremy Lee Foreman. Absolutely. Well, listen, don't be a stranger. Come and see us at the Recov tonight, 7 o'clock for some bingo. Doors open at 4 o'clock. If you're hungry for some dinner, should be a good night to get some vittles. Our kitchen staff is cooking up some wonderful stuff. They always do. We'll see you back here bright and early tomorrow morning on the Sports Carnival. I'll be joined, I think, by our good buddy Matt from the Recov. Once again, we are recovering from a really exciting holiday party yesterday. Matt, thank you so much. Thanks to our friends Annie and Pete over at the Bluffside Tavern, our friends over at the Cooley Golf Bowl, and, of course, the luxury limousines. That was so much fun. All right, guys and gals, have a great day. We'll look forward to seeing you later on tonight. I think Mike Byers is saying he's going to be checking in on you before you go under the knife. Until then, have a great one. Thanks so much.